है ना, for implementing. Means we are
Uh,
using the courses in the Raspberry Pi. Why we not
no, no, no.
using the Python?
No, we are not using courses on Raspberry Pi. That's the version that we have implemented for virtual lab in BMSC. But courses
Okay.
can be used on Windows system as well. You don't need extra hardware for it.
Okay. So in Raspberry Pi, if we are uh, syncing with another thing, so we can use Python, na? Apart from any other application.
So courses itself is a software. Python is a language. So using Python, you can do anything, but courses is a software. For using that, you need courses only.
Okay.
Pi is a processor, so on that you can use C, C++, Python, Java, JavaScript, whatever you want. But Codesys in itself is a software. It has its own language, which is in accordance with the IEC norms uh, for uh, for programming a PLC or a control system. So you can use structure language on that, or you can use function blocks, or you can use ladder logic for Codesys.
So it can be easily synced. Means if we use any one of the language, so
Yeah.
when we are using a three different gaps or a groups of it, so they can communicate
Okay.
easily. So we can use any of the language. We don't require any software, na, for it.
Yeah, for linking language is because language doesn't do communication. It's the uh, protocol that does it. So, for example,
Yeah.
if I write code one in Python and code two also in Python, it doesn't mean that both the codes will be able to
No,
talk
no,
to each
sir.
other. Yeah,
We
yeah.
import it. Means in Raspberry Pi, if you want
Okay,
to,
okay, okay. If you
yeah.
yeah, if you want to import a library, but you're taking two routes here. So one is you're talking about linking three different softwares. So three softwares cannot be linked through language, but through protocols. That is what is the session I'm going to take now. Otherwise, if it is Python allows you to import libraries. Every language does that. So yeah, that can be done. But that won't mean that you are communicating to different softwares. It is just one software where you are calling for the library.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yep, sure.
Good morning, all of you. Shall we start the session, Ritesh?
Yeah, sure, sir.
Yeah. So I welcome Mr. Ritesh once again to take on the session now, and he's going to talk about Unity 3D software. And I request him to give
Yeah.
sufficient instructions to the participants what they have to do initially in order to go to Unity 3D, uh, so that the participants can also follow up what is that is being done in this particular session. So with these few words, I request Ritesh to take over the session. Thank
Yeah,
you.
sure. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So today's session is, as you might have seen the brochure already. So this session is about linking different softwares. So today we are going to link Unity 3D with the model that we studied about yesterday, the Open Modelica model that we studied about. And we will try to get values from Modelica and see visualization in Unity 3D. Uh, so I'll start with it. I'll start with my presentation. It's very brief. So I'm expecting that your systems have Python already. In case it is not there, I'll give you one link. You can go to that and let me know when the screen is visible.
So it is visible.
All right. Okay. So yeah, I'll start the session. And so this is the Python
Ritesh,
link
can you
from which
turn
you
on your
can.
camera, please?
Yeah. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I'll stop sharing. I'm not getting any audio. Is anybody talking?
Yeah, thank you, Ritesh. Done.
Okay, so we are
Yeah.
done.
Yes, yes.
All right. Okay. No, yeah, sure. I'll share the link in chat box. So this is the link to latest Python version 3.9.1, 64-bit version. So those of you who already have Python on their system, it's fine. Those who don't have it, uh, meanwhile you can download it. It's not a very big file to download and install it. So installation is normal, just like any other software. Yeah. Okay. So Python is there. Then there's a set of codes that we are going to write today. So there we are going to write one C# script and some Python code as well for communication. So all those files are in the link that I'm copying into the chat box now. So it's a zip file. From there you can download that zip file and extract all the files. So there'll be two folders. One would be I guess, scripts. The other one would be some Python link. Then third one is a blend file, which is a blender file of football that most of you created yesterday. If anybody among you could not do that, then they can use that blender file for the football model. So I'll just repeat what we have gone through so far so that everything stays fresh. So we have introduced four softwares. First one we did was Unity 3D, which was to spin a cube using that. Then we did Open Modelica. We did a brief introduction about it, wrote a few small codes for first order system and RLC circuits, and finally did a bouncing ball model. And then Ajaya took you through CodeSys HMI. What are the available options? There are a lot of options actually. So going through CodeSys is not a 1.5 hour task because it's a complete automation software. But I'm hoping that everything that was required for the HMI was covered. Then Blender, again, Blender is an extensive software. So if you go to each and every part of it, means just the introduction would take around 6 to 7 hours, including all the shortcuts, all the options available. So extensive software, but I hope all of you were able to design the 3D ball that was done by Monisha. And if in case you haven't done that, then I have included a Blender file which has the football, so you can use that for today's practical. And then we finally did import of 3D ball. imported it from Blender into Unity, which was simply just a copy paste, nothing special in that. Because Blender and Unity have compatibility with each other, 1:1 ratio, which means that whatever dimensions you set in Blender, same dimensions you get in Unity. And all, including all the details you provide, like texture or material, colors, and everything. Yeah, so that there now now we know that we have worked on 4 softwares, but as ma'am was saying, that how do we make them to talk to each other? So there can be several types of interfaces. There can be inter-system, inter-process interfaces. Inter-process means that all 4 softwares, or whatever number of softwares you have, they are all are running on the same machine. That is communication between processes. Then you have communication between systems, which means that I am working here. If I know your IP address, I would be able to send data from my computer to your computer, even if they are different systems. So like we have different protocols for it. Like just to give you an example, the Python that you are downloading, so it is based on FTP protocol, file transfer protocol. Similarly, the codes that you're downloading, so these are files. You are getting those files from the internet, so all that is done by FTP. So similarly, there are several rules and regulation which are used for exchanging information. And just like I told you, FTP, which is a protocol that contains all the rules and regulations for sharing files, uploading and downloading them. And then the most common protocols that you must have come across in your daily life is like when you open any website, you get HTTP or HTTPS. So those are the hypertext protocols. Then for the networking, the common ones that we might have come across is TCP/IP, then UDP. Both are based on same kind of architecture, with the difference that UDP doesn't ask for acknowledgement. So the communication can be lossy, but because there is no acknowledgement, so it's speedy as compared to TCP/IP, which does authentication and acknowledgement. So TCP/IP is slower but secure. Then we have Modbus. Those who are from instrumentation and control background, they would know this name, Modbus, which is a very common protocol used in PLC communication, communicating PLC data with computers or between PLCs. Then Bluetooth, this we all know, don't need a explanation of it. All of phones have. Then serial is what you use for communicating with small controllers. So it's a very simple bit by bit single bit transfer protocol. And then we have shared memory, which is a inter-process. So last 3 are inter-process communications only, which means these communication work only on one machine. You can't using those protocols, you can't share data with different computers. So one is shared memory, in which a memory location is created on your computer where all the processes dump their data, and if one process can write data there, and other process can read data from there, and vice versa. Then messages are there. So we have message queuing, many nano messages and other things are there which allow you to exchange data between processes using small links. Then we have pipelines which allow output of one process to go as an input to the second process. And similarly, we have many other such protocols. These are like common ones that we commonly come across. Okay, so the two protocols that we are going to use, one is UDP, which is user datagram protocol, and those who are from computer and networks background, including electronics and communication, we all know that what UDP is. So as I told you that TCP and UDP come in they are almost common, with the difference that the UDP doesn't have any kind of acknowledgement or security features in it. And so it is a low latency protocol, which means it is very fast. Data that you send goes from host to the client machine very fast, and sorry, it's tolerant. So it's loss tolerant, which means there can be losses in the system and it won't be able to detect it. So it will just tolerate those losses. And once the information is lost, it's lost forever. It cannot be recovered on UDP. Uh, why do we use it? We use it because when we want speed, when speed is more important than security or the consistency of data, that time we use the UDP. So all your video streaming and everything happens using UDP because their information exchange is supposed to be fast. All your voice over IP calls that you make using Geo or any other provider. So all those calls are using UDP because uh, whatever I'm saying, that information should come to you within time. If some of the words in between are lost, they can be tolerated. But if I'm saying now and information is coming after, say, 1 minute, that's not acceptable. So these are some of the applications of it. So it works over network, internet also it works, the local network also it works. Even on a single machine it works. So what it does is you provide a local host or local IP, which is 127.0.0.1, and you send all your data to this IP, so that gets exchanged with the same machine. And that is what we are going to do, because we are not using any Raspberry Pi or any other computer in conjunction with our system. Everything will happen locally, so we will be using this IP address. And next protocol is OPC UA. So those who are from instrumentation background, they might have heard of this protocol, but most of us might not have. One reason being that it is relatively new protocol, and it's very specifically for automation industry. So it's not used in any other scenario that much. It's mostly suitable for being used in industry. It's platform independent, which means I can have implementation on my system, on your system, and that is the key idea behind using it. Because I'm running Linux, you are running Windows. So if I would have used any other protocol, it might have created problem for you. Like you won't be able to do it. I'll be able to do it. So those dependencies are not there. It's platform independent. Then it is suitable for information modeling. So there are two kind of modeling when you communicate data. One is data modeling, one is information modeling. In data modeling, you just get the raw data. So as I told you earlier, Modbus. So Modbus is simply just data values will come in form of hexadecimal codes and no information along with it. For example, if a number uh, 240 is coming, I don't know what it is, whether it's frequency, whether it's voltage, or what it is. So that I have to figure out myself, which is not the case in OPC UA. It along with the data, it gives out a lot of information about it. It's a browse name, it's URATs and everything. Then it has inbuilt security, so you can provide, you can use a authentication on top of it, which we are not going to use it for obvious reason, because it's not, our process is not supposed to be that secure. But generally in industry, you can provide security authentication on top of it, and also cryptography. So that's inbuilt security. Then it is at the base of it, it's all TCP/IP only, but it has been molded to be used for industry. So lot of customization is there. Protocol is pretty complex, but once it is implemented, it is very easy to use. So it provides connectivity across all levels of automation industry hierarchy. So there are in general 5 levels of hierarchy in any automation industry, which starts from field devices, which is sensors and actuators, and goes up to your corporate level, where the whole resource planning is done. So and then now even sixth level is there, which is cloud, and OPC UA can provide the field level to cloud level connectivity without any significant changes in implementation. So which makes it very suitable for industry that we are working now on in now, and even makes it future proof for industry 4.0. Then libraries for implementing OPC UA are available in almost all modern programming languages, including Python. Yeah, and C, C++ anyhow is there. Then .NET is there. Then JavaScript also, there is library for it. So in short, like for every language, there is OPC UA library available. Okay, so what kind of links we are going to create? So these are the two protocols that we are going to use. So how is that going to happen? So what we have here is today we are going to work with two systems out of those three. First, VR UDP server, then OP this simulation only, open Modelica simulation. But later on, subsequently, you'll see that we are going to interface CodeSys as well. But for this lecture, we'll keep CodeSys aside. But I've included it just to show you the complete linking that we do. So on VR side, we have implemented a UDP server, which you are also going to do today. And that's what those scripts are about that I have sent to you. So on VR side, we'll have a UDP server, and simulation, open Modelica simulation comes with inbuilt OPC UA server. So there is absolutely nothing to do there. So which is a good thing. It's a facility from open Modelica itself, so we can leverage it. So simulation has inbuilt OPC UA server. On VR, we have created a UDP server. So what we have to do is we have to create a client in between, which takes data from OPC UA server and sends it to UDP server. So that client will actually have both the things in it. It will be a OPC UA client also, and it will be a UDP client as well. Yes, so that's the theory of what we are going to do today. Now we can come to our practicals. So what I want you to do is first of all start Unity. Let me know once we are here. You can tell me in messages if VR is up for you, if this Unity is up for you. So it's the same thing. You have to go to the start menu, type in Unity there, click on the application that appears, and then either you can continue on what you did yesterday. So you might have included your Blender file also, but in case you have not done that, then create a new model. So you have to, on top right, you have to click on new, click on then select 3D, provide a name to your project and location to the project, and create the project. So once that is done, you will come to you will be able to see some such thing on your Unity window. So we have already gone through this, that we have seen here, we have game, which is which shows what our application will look like finally. And then we have asset store, which is for downloading anything extra that we want, if it is already available on Unity. Yeah, so when you start sorry. Yeah, so once you start this, what you will land at is such kind of page. So you will be in assets folder, and there will be just scenes there, no scripts and models for you, unless you are using your previous one, then you might have created those folders. But yeah, so that's the thing. And okay, so I'll continue with this. And what you get here is main camera and direction lights, which is, if you click on main camera, then it is this thing, and the camera which provides you this view. Then we have directional lights, which provide lights in where it is downwards. So in one direction only, it will provide lights. So what you have to do now is, first of all, yesterday we had done a bouncing ball model. So one thing is that I can use that bouncing ball model, which I'll come to later, that we can use the model that we have created in our Modelica, and use values from there to bounce a ball in this scene. Otherwise, one thing that Unity inbuilt has, it also has a bouncing ball model inside it. So first, which is the easier one to use. So first, we'll go through that how to use inbuilt bouncing ball. So what you have to do is go to hierarchy section and right click. So once you right click, you have to come to 3D object and select sphere. You can use your ball that you have created, but just for the ease of use, let us just use the inbuilt 3D sphere. So once you click on sphere, you will see one sphere in your space. Okay, and what you have to do, its original location would be 0, 0, 0. Just make y equal to 5. You can provide any number here. Only condition is that it should still be visible from the main camera, otherwise it will go beyond the view. So keep position of this particular sphere at y equal to 5. Others, let it be the way it is. And then what you have to do is create a plane so that you can have a sense of ground. So we'll click on plane. What we have to do is we'll right click in the hierarchy section, 3D object, and you have an option called plane here. So we'll click on that. I have already done it, so I'm just hiding and unhiding it. So plane is there. Even for plane, for your next practical, you would require the y to be -1. So it's good if you do it now only. So make it -1 plane. So I hope till here everything is easy. It's just calling to inbuilt geometries. So similarly, you would see that there are several geometries here. So you have cube, you have sphere, capsule. Cube and sphere we have already used. Sphere we are using today. Cube we have used in our first session. Then capsule, which is like cylinder with the round tops. Then cylinder, then plane, quad. Then you can even put text on screen, which we will do in our last session. And then you can have trees and all, terrain and trees also, so that you can have a good realistic picture here. So all that is there. 3D text also you can show. So many inbuilt functionalities are there, and models are there. So we are using sphere today, and the plane. Plane is just for the feel of ground. Make y equal to -1 for plane, and for sphere make y equal to 5. So once that is done, what you'll have to do is, so once you click on sphere here, then what you get is all those things here. So till sphere collider, you will have everything already. What you won't have is this rigid body. So for adding rigid body, what you have to do is, after you have clicked on sphere, click add component in the inspector section and type in rigid. So you will be, so it will filter out all the available options. So you have to select the rigid body option from here. And keep everything as it is. No need to change any of the factors here. So everything can be as it is. Collider it already has. So two main things for us to use for using the inbuilt bouncing ball model is that we should have a collider. As I told you yesterday, that when the ball is bounced, it goes through collision. It can be purely elastic collision. It can be purely inelastic collision, depending on our coefficient of restitution, and it can so that is there. So for that to happen, it should have a collider, which means outside this sphere there should be something that tells Unity that this is this particular model's boundary. So if this boundary strikes with anything, it should collide there. It should not go beyond it. So that is there, sphere collider, which will be already there. Then just add a rigid body. Now for you, material part in this sphere collider would be empty right now. So for filling anything inside it, what you have to do is you have to go to assets folder here and right click. Yeah. Anybody saying anything?
Ritesh sir, can you please repeat that right side you changed some collider and other aspects, sir? One more time, please.
Yeah, sure.
How did you select that?
So collider, I didn't change anything. So it is just simply.
For me, it is not there, sir. That's why I'm asking you. How did you get that? Actually, the rigid and
rigid and sphere collider is not there for you.
Yeah, it basically from where I have to click that.
Okay. So first of all, you have added sphere, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You have added a sphere?
Yes, I have done it. I have done all the plane aspects, everything I have done.
All right. So once you click on sphere, you will come across all those things here.
Okay.
So if you don't have sphere collider, which can happen, so what you have to do is just go to add components and type in collider here. So when you type collider, you will get all kind of colliders that are available. Sphere collider is one of them. Yeah. So you can simply click on it and add it. This will appear. And similarly for rigid body, just type rigid. It will give you rigid body there. So that adds those two components to this particular sphere.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Okay. So once this thing is done, so what we have to do is we have to provide a material which is a physics material. So we'll tell that there is going to be a bouncing surface and it has to bounce from there. So what you have to do is go to assets, then either do it outside. I have done, I guess, inside models. You can create a folder models inside that you can do. Otherwise, you can keep it outside as well. So right click anywhere in this assets area, right click on create. Then through those options, find physics material. So once you click on physics material, you will see something like this or something different like a bouncing stuff or something. In Windows, it shows a different symbol. So you will see some similar thing. If you want to rename it, you can rename it. Like I have named it ball bounce. Otherwise, it comes with the default name as well. That name is not important in case you want to. And once that is done, so if you click on this physics model, so you will see some dynamic functions here. Okay, so dynamic friction, keep it as it is. If it is 0.6, then this. If it is 0.5, then whatever it is, just keep it that way. Bounciness would be 0 for you right now. So this value should be within 0 and 1. So when you go on top of bounciness, it also shows you that what can be the value of it. It can be either 0, which means that there is no bounciness at all. The ball just comes down and strikes with the ground and doesn't lift back. Uh, and 1 would mean that it will infinitely keep on jumping like a crazy ball. What we want is a more realistic number. Even in our model, we had used 0.8 as our coefficient. So it's the same value. So bounciness, make it 0.8. And in the bounce combined, it would be average for you by default. Make it maximum. So which would mean that we will get the maximum bounce that we can get for this bounciness. Once that is done, again come back to the sphere. Okay, and once you are on sphere, so in sphere collider, I told you that among the materials there will be nothing for you here. So what you have to do is click on the new physics material that you have just created and drop it there. So then you will see that name is changing there. Yeah. Okay. Let me know once you are on this step. Okay. So I'm getting a done messages. So okay, fine. So what this means is that your bouncing ball model, which you can create inside Unity, is done. Okay. I have included some extra things. Okay. I haven't. Okay, fine. So we can proceed. So you would see that your scene should look something like this. Okay, ball can be here and there, but it should still be visible. So this is the top position from where it is going to drop down and bounce before coming to rest. Yeah. So I hope this thing was very easy and is working for all of you. So here in this case, all the dynamics are created inside Unity. So we didn't program it to behave that way. Here we are using the inbuilt capability of Unity for making a bouncing ball. Then second part that we are going to do now is actually link OpenModelica and Unity. So what I would like you to do now is open OpenModelica. Go to first open OpenModelica. Just go to start menu, type in OMEdit or OpenModelica connection editor there, and you will see one application with that name. Just open that application. Okay, so once you open, you will land on a page which looks something like this. Okay, so what you have to do is click on file. What we want to do is run the bouncing ball model that we studied yesterday. So first click on file, go to system libraries. You will have a library called Modelica by example here. So file, system libraries, Modelica by example. Once you click on that, you will see that it is appearing in the libraries browser. So in libraries browser, you will, if you click on the arrow in front of Modelica by example, you will see all the packages that there are inside. We have to go to this discrete behavior package. Inside discrete behavior package, we have cooling, bouncing ball, decay, chatter, and all those libraries packages. We have to get the bouncing ball one, and we saw yesterday that the simple bouncing ball, it behaves erratically, so we don't want to use it because if this code is already faulty, why would we like to use it? So we'll use the stable version, which had the condition that when ball comes to rest, it should not, the gravity should stop acting, and the ball should not go underground. So we'll use the stable bouncing ball model. Okay. I don't think I need to go through this. So let me know in the chat section if you want me to go through the code again. All right. Okay. Then if the code is clear, we have gone through this already. Then what we will do now is we will see how to link two applications. I told you that Open Modelica has inbuilt OPC UA server inside it. So to activate that server, what we do is we go into the simulation setup, and simply what we will do is we will start interactive simulation. So just in the second flag, there is an option for interactive simulation. Just checkbox the first checkbox there, interactive simulation. And one more thing we have to do is, because when data is going out of simulation, so we had seen yesterday that compilation takes time, but running the model doesn't take time. So even if I write 10 seconds, it doesn't mean that my model will run for 10 seconds. It will be virtually 10 seconds. But when we want to exchange data with any other software, we want it to actually run for that much time as we are telling it. So what we want is we want to activate the real-time clock. So for that, what we have to do is we have to go to simulation flags. And so once you click on simulation flags, you will see something like this appearing. So we have to come straight to the bottom where it's written additional simulation flags, optional. So we have to write -RT, which means real-time clock, -RT equal to 1.0. So 1.0 is the factor. So when I write -RT equal to 1.0, it means that I want the clock to run. So 1 second in this clock should be 1 second of actual clock, which is there in our house. So 1 second should mean 1 second. If I make this number bigger than this, for example, if I write -RT equal to 2.0, that would mean that 1 second in simulation should be equal to 2 seconds in reality, and vice versa also. So if I write a 0.5, it would mean that 1 second in the simulation would be equal to 0.5 second in reality. So that's how it works. So we will write -RT equal to 1.0, and we will start interactive simulation. We can click OK, but for now we will leave it because we have to first get our client side also running. So we'll leave it at this window for the time being. And I'm hoping that all of you have downloaded the codes that I had given here, the drive.google.com. So inside that, what we have is where's the codes? Okay, inside that codes folder there will be the Blender file for the football, and two folders. One will be scripts and one will be Python link. Okay, so first we will go to the Python link itself because it would be easier to understand. So just open it in any browser that you have.
Sir, excuse me, sir. Can you please reshare that link, sir?
Reshare? It's already in the chat.
Yes, sir. I joined lately, sir. That's all.
Okay, fine. Okay, I've pasted the link again. Let me know when you have the files. So you can open this code in any editor of your choice. Yeah, so let me know if you have downloaded it and if you can open this file. So some of
Yes,
you
sir.
might have already, yeah, okay, sir. Okay. So some of you might have already worked with Python and already know the structure, but just for the absolute beginners. So how Python works is that it's not a language that compiles, it's a language that you write as a script. So it's very close to how you would write a pseudocode, which means the algorithm that you write, it can literally translate word by word into a Python code. So it's a very easy language to uh, learn, write, and read as well. When we start any of our code, if we require any external library for it, then first we do is import. Just like in C language, because I'm assuming C language everybody might have worked with. So just like in C language, you write a hash include and the header files. So here you write import. So those I've written import socket, import sys, then from OPC UA import client, then import UA, import time. So all those are libraries. Some of them are inbuilt libraries. For example, socket, sys, and time are inbuilt. OPC UA, you will have to install it. I'll let you know how to install it. But for now, we'll just go through the code. Then I have created a class here called MyOPC client. It could be any name. It's just that I wrote it like this. Then, so Python is object oriented. You can use classes and objects inside it, so which makes it very modular to work on. So inside this class, first function that is written is init, which is an inbuilt function in Python. So whatever you write inside init is a constructor for this particular class object. So what I've done here inside the constructor is that I have defined a variable called client, and you might see that I'm using the word self here, which is equivalent to using this in C++, which means that whatever variable or function has self attached to it, that gets attached to the object itself. So object can access that particular variable by its name all across the class. So it is not that if I'm writing self.client inside init, then its definition is limited to that function only. Its definition is limited to the complete class. So self.client is equal to client URL. So URL is one IP address that I will be giving for this particular function, client function, which we have imported from OPC UA library. Then next line is simply connect. So whatever was the URL written, just connect to it. And then it will just print that, okay, we have connected to whatever URL was there, or the link, IP link. Then next is underscore del, which is a destructor. So it is also inbuilt. So it's a destructor for the class. So where I've just written that if a client was created, then simply just disconnect it if you ever come across, if ever the object gets deleted. So next is list nodes. So when we work with OPC UA, I told you that it does information modeling. And so it will everything on OPC UA is also a kind of class, which is called nodes. So each node will have its own definition. So there are few nodes which are common to all kind of OPC UA networks that you will create. For example, we have a root node, then we have object nodes, and then in the as a children of object node, you can have several other nodes. So just to show you what it looks like, I will start you don't have to start it now, but I will do that just to show you that what OPC UA link looks like. So right now you would say that it has started an interactive plot here. you might be able to see on my screen. And if I click on H, nothing is appearing because model hasn't started yet. And how can we see that it hasn't started? Because in the output, you will see that it's at 0% right now. Because as I said, it creates a server. Now server is waiting for some client to connect and tell the server that you should start. I haven't given this client to you, but there is one available for free online, which is called UA Expert. I have its Linux version. Windows version is also there. You can download it online. I'll send you a link later. So I'll just show you what OPC UA information model looks like. Okay, so this is this UA Expert, which is a client for OPC UA. I will connect. So how you connect is double click, put in the IP address. For me, the IP address is local host or 127.0.0.1. Both the things will work. And the port number is 4841, which is inbuilt to OpenModelica. You can change it, but I haven't changed it, so it will remain this for all of us. And then you just simply click on OK. So once you click on OK, something like this will appear. Then you have to go inside. Then this. So this is where I'm establishing the link with OpenModelica. So even in OpenModelica window, you will be able to see that session activated. Now you might be able to see that all the variables that are there. So for height, the variable that we had used was h. So whatever variable you want to see, you can drag it here. So you, as in our code, you might have seen that the initial value for h was given as 1. Yeah. So h equal to h naught and h naught was equal to 1. That's why we are seeing that number there. So right now program has not started. It gives us two variables run for starting the program. So if I make it true, that will start the program. And then there is one more variable, very important, which is enable stop time. So by default, it is true. I have to make it false. So what this does is, because right now my stop time would be 1 second. So if I make this run equal to true, program will run for 1 second and then crash. But if I make enable stop time equal to false, then my program will run infinitely, which is what we want. Okay. The idea here was to show you what all information do you get. For example, if I simply click on H, so this is my information model here. So all the attributes are listed. That first is node ID. As I told you that everything on a OPC UA network is a class called node. So you can see that there is hierarchy. First is root, then there is objects, then object has children. They can further have even more children. So this is the structure that we get. So this is just for showing you. It has nothing to do with what we are going to do. It is just to show you the information model in OPC UA. So then node class, it is a variable. What's it? It's a browse name. So this is its browse name. Then description is also given. What is it? It's a value of height. So this is what we call information modeling, that along with the variable, you're not giving just the value, but you are giving a lot of information along with it. So it even includes the timestamp and status code, that how's the information. If it is good, then good. If you're not getting that information, it shows bad here. So a lot of information along with, because otherwise it's just h equal to 1 if we would have used any other protocol. But in OPC UA, you get everything. So this is the information model. So now it would be easier for you to understand what is written in code. So list nodes means what we want to do is we simply want to do this, that list out whatever is available there, which is required if you want to see if you have got a certain node. Otherwise you can, but I have given this inside the class, you can use it. Then we have select nodes. So if you want to select certain node, this is one function that I have written here. What we are going to use is select node by ID. So what we will do is we will provide node ID. Node ID means this identification here, which has two values. One is NS, one is I. I is its address, and NS is called its namespace. So namespace is its level in hierarchy. For example, all the variables that we use in our code, they come as NS equal to 1. And all the inbuilt variables, for example, run, we haven't written in our code, but it is there. Then step is there, then the enable stop time is there. So all those come as their namespace index is 0. So it's not even shown here. So it's NS is equal to 0 and address is this. So this remains constant. This address 10001, this will remain constant. Similarly for stop time also, it will remain 10003. And for H, for this particular code, it will remain constant. But if I make any change in my code, it may change. But we are not making any changes, so it will remain the same for all of us. So this particular address. So now I'll come to the code. So here are some variables for the UDP client that we are going to build inside. So as I told you, that it's not just OPC, it has a UDP client also. And what this code is doing is exchanging data between two servers using the client. So first line here, what we have done is we have created a UDP socket. So this is a syntax. So there's it means there's nothing to do here. It's simply you write it like this. When you're using a AFI net bridge, that we are going to use IP version 4 of addressing, and sock.dgram means that you're going to use UDP. As I told you that there are two similar kind of protocols, TCP and UDP. So to differentiate between the two, so you write type equal to socket.sock.dgram. This is just a variable name. We can have any variable name here. You can change it even if you want, but then it should be consistent all through the code. This is the name you are giving to the socket. Then this statement is there if underscore name is equal to underscore main, which is equivalent to writing void main in C++. So what happens, because as I told you that in Python you can import. So I can even write this code and import it somewhere else. But when I import it, that time everything that I have written inside this will not get executed, because that time this code will not be the main code. Main code would be where I am calling it, and this will not get executed. But we are going to run this code. So just to make sure that this particular part gets run only when we are running this code, we do this, that if name is equal to main. It's like int main or void main that you write in C++. Then URL, as I told you, this URL. By default, I'm keeping it opc.tcp, localhost 4841. For the obvious reasons, I told you that OpenModelica creates OPC server on localhost, which is 127.0.0.1, same as this. And 481 is the port number. Similarly, for UDP, we are giving port number 12345. This number you can give anything, because server also you only are creating. But this number is according to what is there in OpenModelica 4841. Then this is just the argument. So if to the code if I want to change this particular URL, if I want to make any change to it, then I will write port number and IP address when I'm calling the code. But we are not going to do that because we are using our local system only. So localhost will not change because this condition will not be true for us. Then here I have created an object of MIOPC client, which is my class here, provided this as an argument, which goes to the constructor function. So it connects my client to OpenModelica. Then, as I told you, there are two variables, run and enable stop time. So I'm just going to make two variables which get the value from that node. So here you would see that I have written 0,10001, which is because for run, NS is equal to 0 and identifier is 10001. Similarly, for enable stop time, this number is the namespace is still 0, but identifier is 10003 on the OPC network. Then for height, as we already saw, that's that our NS becomes namespace becomes 1, but the identifier becomes this many, I guess 8 zeros after 1. So similar thing I have written here. So those three values are now equated to a variable, each variable like run, enable stop time, and height. Then what we are doing here is we are simply writing enable stop time dot set value. So once you have those variables, once you are accessing these nodes from OPC network, you can simply tell it to set value or get value. So we are going to use both. So here I'm writing enable stop time dot set value false. As I told you, that these are the two main variables, run and enable stop time. If I keep enable stop time at true only, it will run for the stop time that I'm giving in my code. Right now I have gave just 1 second, so it will run for just 1 second and then drop. But if I make it false, then this code will run infinitely, and that's what we want when we are running any combining any two processes. We want to make it false. Similarly, when I set run value to true, so that will start the model. Okay, so then I have written a try except column here. So first is that while true, in the message put height dot get value. Height is this. So make it as a message, as a string. What should be inside it? It should be height from height dot get value. That value will come from my Open Modelica code. Then byte send is equal to str dot encode message. So when we are sending any data on UDP server or client on UDP socket, what we have to do is we can't simply send a string. We have to convert it into a byte code. So that is what we are doing here. We are encoding the string with the default encoder to be a byte. So then I have written UDP client socket, which is the same name as this, because this is the client connection that we had created. UDP client socket dot send to. Send to is the function, inbuilt function in socket library. Byte send, which is this data encoded information, and server address port, which comes from here. So this is the address, and this is the port for that particular service. Then byte receive. So once you send data, you will receive also something back. So receive from this particular address only, UDP client socket dot receive from, and what to receive. Whatever you receive, that should go into the buffer. Its size can be maximum equal to buffer size, which is 1024 we have given here. We don't need this much big size. Even 32 would have been fine, but yeah, it's fine. You can give a number here. Then message is equal to, if you want to print what information you got from there. So it comes in two factor of 2. That first part is the message that you have got, and second part is the address from where it came. So we want to print just the first part. Here we are not printing it, we are just putting it into a variable. But if you want to print it, then you can simply say message equal to this, and then in next line you can say print message. But right now we are not getting anything from Unity. We are just sending values to Unity. So there's no point of printing it, because we are just going to get 0.0. So that's the whole structure. So this is the main part, which is doing the whole information exchange. And we have written here while true, which means an infinite loop. So this condition will always be true. So it will run infinitely unless I provide any error. For example, if I interrupt using my keyboard, which you can do if you press Ctrl+C, that creates an interrupt. Or if there is any other error, then it will just print that unknown error occurred. If I do a keyboard interrupt, it will say that disconnected by user. And this is what it has to do finally. So finally, before closing, just make enable stop time equal to true, so which will stop the server, OPC UA server, and print that Modelica on OPC client stop and delete the Modelica client. So this is the whole structure using of the Python code using which you are going to communicate with Unity. For using this socket, sys and time, as I told you, they are inbuilt libraries, but you will need to install OPC UA at least. You have to do is just start, go to your start menu, type CMD there, command prompt. So command prompt is equivalent to what you have, what you call terminal in Linux. So once you do that, you will see a black screen there. What you have to do is simply write pip if install. If you have installed Python already, then only this command will work, and OPC UA. So once you type in this, it can be PIP. If this doesn't work for you, type in PIP3 because there are 2 versions of Python. So any of the 2 should work. If it is not working, then there is some problem with the installation. That then in that case you can share your screen. So just type in PIP3 install, or PIP, simply PIP install OPC UA, and click enter. So this is package installer in Python, which takes information from the internet. So wherever package called OPC UA will be available online, it will download it from there itself and install it. So you don't have to do anything. You just simply have to write this command and be done with it. And once that is downloaded, then this code can be used. Like if you would want to use it without this library, it won't work, because then it doesn't have the definition for anything. Like it doesn't have definition for OPC UA or client or connector, any function, inbuilt function that we have used here, which is a part of this OPC UA library. Let me know if anybody gets any error while downloading or installing it. And make sure Python is installed first, because PIP comes as a part of that package. Command is pip install OPC UA. If this doesn't work, then pip3 install OPC UA. Okay, so now that's the Python part. So now we have created Python OPC UA and UDP client in single code, but and OPC UA is inbuilt in OpenModelica, but this Unity doesn't have any inbuilt server. So we will have to create ourselves, for which that second folder that I have given to you, which is one second, the scripts folder. So it will have 2 scripts inside. So there is the one called udpserver.cs. So this is the main server file here. I will go briefly through this because we are not very familiar with the C# that much. So you can simply use this code. I'll very briefly go through what is happening inside it. So what we are doing here is, because now server has to run infinitely, so it can, if I make it to run as a common thread, which we were running earlier, thread means one process only, then what happens, it will be stuck inside this while true. So it will just roam inside it and never come out of it. But we don't want that, so what we use here is thread. And CS background people would know what multi-threading is. That you, inside one process, you create multiple processes, sub-processes, and each process has its own set of instructions which runs independent from the rest of the code. So that is what is thread. So we create a thread which is to read data from UDP server. And then UDP client is an inbuilt library. So inside the .NET .sockets, so inbuilt class actually inside this library. So we are creating an object of that. Port, I told you in the code that we are here, we only are defining the port, so we can define it any number, but only condition being that this number here and this number here should be common. So in Python, if I write here 54321 or any other number for that sake, then that number should match with what I'm writing in Unity. So it should be common. So I'm creating a lock object. Like there are some shared variables inside, so that lock is not created infinitely. For creating mutex, I have used lock object. Now this is like in itself, it's a huge topic to understand what multi-threading is and how it works. So I won't go into those details, but let's just keep it simple. So in start, I told you yesterday that there are two sections in every script that you create. By default, there are two sections in it. One is start and then other one is update. In start, we write whatever we want to run at the initialization. So here I'm creating a UDP client which should listen to this particular port 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this thing should happen just once. So I don't want it to run again and again. So it is in start. Then I'm starting this new thread, which is going to the function called receive data. I'm saying that this particular thread should work in background and start in the thread. So it will just print the start thread on my screen. And update, I'm not doing anything here, no animation inside this particular function because it is just a simply UDP server. So then this is just for stopping thread. I have created a function that when application quits, just stop the thread. And what is there inside stop thread? So it is saying that close the UDP server and abort the thread. So this is the main function here, receive data, which was called by this read thread receive data function. What we have inside is we are creating an endpoint. Endpoint is like you can say that this is kind of a bucket that the socket creates, and any information that comes inside this bucket is then received and taken further. So it will be kind of an empty bucket, you can say, under a tap. So whenever tap is open, something will come. You will take that out of it and process it. Again, keep it there. Again, some data comes. Again, take it out. So all that will happen infinitely. That's why while true. So we are creating a endpoint at a certain address, and we are listening to the port. This port 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we are saying that receive bytes. So it will stay here unless any information comes. Once any information comes, it will come out of this and it will read that data. So information will go inside receive bytes. And then, as I told you that on the client side, we have encoded our information. So we'll have to decode it as well. So that's what we are doing here. And whatever string we are getting, so data, if you see there, I'm giving with the comma separation. So I've given some identifier, like I've written HT. So HT comma, whatever is the value. So like comma is the what is separating value from its name. HT I have written just short for height. You can name it anything. So here what it will do is it will separate those things into two. So first part will become its address, which means the HT in our information. Value will be whatever is the value of height that we are getting from our model. Then lock object, so that shareable objects do not create any deadlock. Then switch case we are using here. We have just one information, we could avoid it, but when we have multiple information coming, then it becomes handy. So switch address. So if address is height HT, then what to do? So there is another script which is there called ball. So what it is saying is, so there is a variable called height inside it. So what it is saying is that ball.height means this particular script's height variable, which is by default 5, which should become equal to whatever value I'm getting from Modelica through UDP and multiplied by with 5, because values that we are getting from Modelica would be ranging between 0 to 1, because height there we have given as 1. So we can simply multiply it by 5. That will multiply it with that factor, so that we can visualize it easily. Like a drop of just 1 would be very small. 5 is just to create bigger bounce. Then value equal to this break. And if nothing is coming, then by default value should be equal to this. So this value is actually what we are returning. So when I said that we don't want to print anything there, because what we are getting is just 0, 0. So this is that 0, 0. So this value we are encoding. We are putting the address back. We are encoding it and sending it back to the client, which is calling for it just as a dummy. It has nothing to do, but main information is this, that ball height is equal to value. Rest is just exception handling, catch, and finally. So this is the UDP server. Then we have a script, another script called ball.cs. So in which what we have done is created this particular class and made a variable. Now you will see that this variable is called public static float. It's not simply public float. Static, why? Because I want to call this variable from another script. So I could do this. I could write ball.height just because I have used a static keyword here. So public static float height equal to this, which is its default height. Then private float, so speed, with which speed it should fall down and all that information. So I'm keeping it as it is, like 1. And then void up start, I have nothing to do. Just in the void update, what I've told this in this particular script is that transform its position, means the object's position, which in our case is a ball, transform its position by doing what? By moving the vector towards a new position. So new position will come from this, which means position equal to new vector 3. Transform dot x will remain as it is, dot z will also remain as it is, but y value, which means the top two means the drop, will come from this particular thing here, this variable. So height at this. And this line is what it is doing. It will, at the speed that we have defined 1.0, it is just taking it to that particular position. And so what it will result in is showing us bounces of the ball. So yeah, these are the two scripts. Now because I didn't get any questions on how to install OPCUA and other Python things, so I guess everybody has installed it. So I'll move further now. What you have to do is I've given you those two codes, scripts, only the scripts part, just copy it, and wherever you have created your model, for example, I have created this bouncing ball model. So I'll go inside its folder, inside assets. I already have scripts. What you have to do is you have to paste it here. So you need those two scripts to work with. And just in case you don't have the football model with you, means you have not created it yesterday, then you can copy the this model as well. Just copy it and again place it in the same assets folder. You can create a new folder called models, and inside it just paste it ball blend.blend. So and then come back to Unity. Once you do that, you will see that inside assets folder, you would be able to see models and scripts if you have created those folders. Inside the model, you should be able to see the balls blender model. I have these two things as well, but for you, it will be just this particular thing. And inside the scripts, you will be able to see the two scripts that I just showed you. Okay, so same thing, like you can run this on the sphere itself if you want, but what I will do is I will just call because we have done this effort of creating the ball model, so we'll use it. But first, what you have to do is, which I told you yesterday as well, that do not import cameras and lights. So when you click on the ball model, just unclick those two things, import cameras and import lights. So that will bring just the ball to your model. And how to bring it, just click on it, drag it, drop it in the hierarchy section. So I have already done that thing. If sphere is already there, so you can hide it. Okay, and just unhide. For you, it will be visible, so you don't have to unhide it. So simply drag and drop, and you will see it in the scene. And for you, ball will appear something somewhere at the ground. So again, do the same thing, that make balls y equal to 5, so that by default it is at a certain height. So make y equal to 5. Okay, so now this ball is not looking very appealing. It is appearing to be dark. To make it lighter, what you can do is, on the main camera, right click and click on light and directional light. Once you do that, so you will see that inside the main camera there is directional light. So now if I see, now ball is appearing brighter, so the colors will appear better. That is just for the aesthetics of it, that you are creating a new light source, which is making the light to go from the camera itself, so things are appearing brighter. So once you have done this, all this, what you have to do is come to the ball blend, or whatever football model you have created, which you have included in the hierarchy. Come to this. Similarly, as you had done earlier, click on add component and search for collider, and add a sphere collider here. So once you add sphere collider, you will see something like this here, which is just to create a like solid border around it, so that it does not go beyond the bottom surface. And as I told you, that plane you should keep it at -1, just to, otherwise it appears like ball is going underground. So just to compensate for that, because
Excuse me, sir.
yeah.
Sir, you have imported that football. After that, what we have to do, sir? How to merge that sphere with ball, sir? Whether we need to merge or
no, sphere, you can remove sphere for now. So how you remove is just there is this first tick mark. So you might see, if you click on sphere, you will see this tick mark here. Just do that. So that will hide the sphere, because now you are going to use the Blender model of football that you had created yesterday. So that will hide the sphere. Now what we are going to do is, we are going to work with our ball that we had created yesterday. So import that ball here, and then simply add a collider. So click on add component, type collider, and search for sphere collider, because it's a spherical object. So, and then add that component here. So that's for the collider part. Then we have to add our script here. So we'll go to the script section. We'll click on our football model and drag and drop the ball script. So just drop it there. I already have included it. For you, you will drag and leave it there. So that adds the ball script to this particular game object, which is your football. Then another script that we have is the UDP server, which I just told you about, which gets data from OpenModelica. So this script, you can include it anywhere. You can do it on plane also, you can add it. I have done it in the main camera. Here also you can do this, drag and drop it, because this doesn't have any animation part in it. It's simply a script to get data from somewhere. So it should appear something like this if you have dragged and dropped it. So these are the two main steps to do here. Now, coming back to your OpenModelica. So as I told you that unless from the client side I run this, I'll just cancel this simulation so that we are on same page. So what I told you was keep all those information as it is. If you want to increase stop time, you can increase it, but that won't make any difference because you are going to make enable stop time as false. So main thing here to do is it will be unchecked for you. Check this interactive simulation. Now that 484 one number that I was writing, it is this number. If I want to change any that number there, I will have to change it here as well. But we'll keep it default. Default number is 4841, which is the port number. Then we go to simulation flag, type in minus RT equal to 1.0 there in the end in additional simulation flags. And after that, we can click on OK. So now you will see that even though you have clicked OK, nothing is appearing because the simulation hasn't run. It has compiled, completely compiled, but it won't run because no client is connected to it right now. So then what we will do is you can again come to your command prompt. So we will have to run our Python script now that we had created. Our server is running, and another server is what we have created here. So if you have done all those steps, you have included UDP server, you have included the ball script, all those steps, if they are done, then you can simply click on play. But nothing will happen once you click on it, because right now no information is coming from OpenModelica. It will come only when you will start exchanging information, which happens through the client that we have created, this OPC UA and UDP client. So for running any Python code, you have to come to command prompt. Okay, so and you will have to go to the folder where this script is located. This particular script is located. If it is already, if it is in your downloads folder only, then you can go to downloads folder. If it is, if you have unzipped it somewhere else, then you will have to go to that folder. I'll suggest keep it in download only, because then for you navigating to download would be easier, because by default command prompt is already in the users folder. If you keep it in any other drive, you will have to go to that particular location. So if my suggestion would be keep it in downloads. So what you have to do is cd downloads or whatever folder is there. I guess it would be downloads only for you. Then click on tab. So with tab you will get a slash, which means that this is one folder location. Inside that, of course, for you the next location would be the name of folder that I have given to you, which is codes, I guess. Yeah, codes. So for example, I'll write codes here. Okay, and then again tab, and then you can enter. For me it's not in download, so I won't enter. So then you will enter in and inside the codes also, sorry, codes also, there is one more folder which is the Python link folder. So you have to go inside that as well, Python link. Now you can click enter. So you will reach this location in your command prompt. Once you are in this location, then you can simply type Python 3 and name of this particular code here. Oh, sorry, I'll have to open it this location. Yeah, so once you are in this location, you have to type is Python 3 UDP opc.py. I'll keep this open so that we can visualize what is happening. Okay, so now this server is running OpenModelica. We already know that it is stuck here. It is at 0% only. And now when I'm creating my client, I will be able to make both the applications to talk to each other. So if I press enter here, now you will see that model ran there, my ball bounced here, so everything is working perfect. So you should be able to see the same thing. Now here in our model, we made it to jump just once. That's why it is happening only once. It won't happen again unless you start your model again. But that is how you do it. So once that is done, you have seen the output. You can on your command prompt, you have to press Control C. So that will take the control out of this particular infinite loop. And so yeah, that's how it works. Now if I want to run it again, I'll have to start my model again. So same thing, go to modeling. Now as I told you that previous information of simulation setup remains as it is, so you can now simply click on simulate. It will again stop at 0%. Then go here, start your Python script. So you'll see. So you can run it this way. So this way we have made two applications to talk to each other using communication protocols. So I hope this happened for you guys. If there are no questions. Any errors anybody got?
Sir, while importing that football, you told to uncheck a few things, no, sir?
Okay. Yeah, once you are sorry. So once you are here, you have to uncheck import cameras and import lights. So only two things you have to uncheck: import cameras and import lights. Once you do that, then you have to drag and drop it into your hierarchy in the sample scene.
Okay, so after that, I have to displace the ball to a certain distance. For example, y equal to 5.
Yes, exactly. So make y equal to 5 so that it is suspended in this space somewhere. Even if you keep it on ground, the model will take it to 5 and then drop it from there. But it's your choice. If you want to keep it at 0, you can keep it at 0.
Disable import lights and import camera. Right, sir.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
After that, I have to place it in the bar.
Yeah. Drop down. Then suspend it in the space at 5, y equal to 5. Then in the main camera, first of all, you have, if you have already copied those that scripts folder into the assets, then start main camera, drag and drop UDP server there. And second thing is go to ball blend and drag and drop ball script there.
Sir, is this UDP server, shall I drag and drop below that ball script, sir? Is it okay?
No, main camera, in the main camera, drag and drop. So click on main camera, drag and drop UDP server. The ball script should be in the ball blend because that is providing animation to the ball. And one thing you would observe is that for you, lighting will not be this good, right? So for example, you won't have this directional light by default. So it would look dark. So what you can do for improving that is right click on main camera, go to lights and click on directional lights. So that will create this light which makes it appear brighter. That's just for the aesthetic part. Otherwise, functionality wise, it won't do anything.
Okay, sir. I tried to load this Python UDP OPC.py, sir, but it is showing some errors. I don't know what is error. It is showing some long error. I am doing it in another computer.
Okay.
File UDP line 45.
Will you be able to share screen?
Okay, sir. I will log in into my another system and I will show you that, sir.
Okay.
This is the error, sir. Hello, sir. Hello.
Hello, yeah, show me the open Modelica screen. Sorry, I had muted it.
So this is
Okay. Okay, server is running for you. Go to this other open OMEDIT screen, which shows the compiling status. Come down. Session activated. No secure channel. Okay. Go to the this command prompt again. I think there is some security check in your system which is doing this. Because server is running, but and client is also running, but it is not able to connect. So sometimes it happens. Do you have any kind of antivirus on your system?
yes, sir. I think JSON is there.
Okay, because
I will disable it.
yeah, sometimes antivirus allow or don't allow connection on certain ports. So that's when this thing happens. So disable for it for a while and then try.
Yes, sir. I think now it has worked. So it is.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Was anyone able to get the output that I just showed? I think it's time for the next session also, which is yoga and meditation. So I don't think anybody would want to skip that. So we'll call it a day. You can try it later also, because we have sessions afterwards also. If you get any problem, you can come back to me. I'll be taking more sessions. So that time also you can ask. But we'll close this session so that next one can be started.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Ritesh, sir.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, sir, sharing information regarding Unity 3D, bounce the 3D ball using a C#. I think next session it will be start from, I think 11:50. We'll take 10 minutes break now.
Yeah, sure.
We'll take 10 minutes break now. I think next session will be start, I think 11:50, regarding meditation, a scientific tool for physical and mental development. So we'll start next session at 11:50. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, sure, sir. Sure. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, I'll disconnect.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.